Carney takes in the game, while MPs take a vacation 1 day early. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The answers you need
from the people in the know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Who could blame the Prime Minister for wanting to bask in the glow of a historic Canadian win on the soccer pitch? The Conservatives. That's who.
I think we would all be very happy to be in Vancouver in great expensive seats watching our Canadian men's national team beat Qatar today. I hope that happens and we can watch that at 6 o'clock. But question period's at 2:15 and the Prime Minister could be here. He's missed more than 100 this year. He was here for 64 days. There's no excuse for the Prime Minister being here. And I will put our leader's record against the Prime Minister's any day in that House of Commons.
As the deputy leader of the Conservative Party, Melissa Lantsman, no, the Prime Minister was not in Ottawa yesterday. Mark Carney was in Vancouver in a private suite, sitting next to the head of FIFA, watching Canada crush Qatar. And then he made his way to the club's dressing room to express how proud he was.
You keep your cool, you show the nation. Like, you didn't just break the CONCACAF record and a bunch of records in 32 attempts on goal, 10 hit the goal, 19 corners, 1 corner, dominate, 70+ percentage, like just show that level. But you showed a level of character that some people never achieve in their life.
Well, Mark Carney, like millions of other Canadians, were taking in the thrills of Canada's first ever World Cup win. Back in Ottawa, MPs were calling it quits. Today was supposed to be the final day of business for the House of Commons, but after a vote, MPs agreed to start their summer holiday 1 day early. And that seemed to put everyone in a good mood, as Conservatives could be seen walking across the aisle, shaking hands with Liberals, political rivals seen hugging one another. Even the Speaker of the House seemed to be caught off guard by the sudden outbreak of decorum.
It's nice to witness this warmth and friendship, but we must move on.
The outburst of friendship was in stark contrast to what the House of Commons sounded like during the final question period until September. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre demanded to know what the government has done for Canadians struggling with the cost of living, as he sparred with the government House leader, Steve McKinnon.
As the Prime Minister ends his third session, I ask you a question. Are your groceries, your gas, your mortgage payments more affordable than they were a year ago? Are your streets more safe, or are they more riddled with crime? Aside from his endless announcements, excuses, and promises, this Prime Minister has doubled the deficit, increased housing costs, home building is actually down, gas, groceries, and mortgage payments nearing record highs. So will the Prime Minister put aside the illusions and stand up in this House of Commons now and defend his disastrous results?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we are at the end of a session, and I wish the Leader of the Opposition, his colleagues, and obviously his family restful summer, as I wish to all my colleagues on this side of the House. I do want to point out, Mr. Speaker, that we are finishing one of the most productive legislative sessions in recent history. 21 bills have become law through this chamber, the largest criminal justice reform passed in the history of Canada. Liberals are the law and order party now, and we have put in place a series of measures to make life easier and more affordable for Canadians. We're not stopping there. We're going to continue the work. We're going to build Canada strong, and we're going to make this country proud.
The highlight of this session in the House of Commons, though, had nothing to do with any bills passed by the government. It was what was happening behind the scenes, as the Liberals turned a minority government into a majority government, thanks in large part to MPs crossing the floor. The Liberals vowed they would still collaborate with opposition parties despite having a majority, but according to the Bloc's leader in the House, Christine Normandin, That was just an empty promise.
They promised us to be collaborative, to reach out for the opposition parties' opinions and to take their advice. But it was just an empty promise. And you can see it through the time allocations and different procedures that we have at the end of the session for bills that would have passed. Anyways, they have a majority in the House, but they just don't care.
Leader of the Green Party, Elizabeth May, is another unhappy opposition MP, and she encouraged Canadians to complain to their local Liberal MPs.
We're going backwards, and as everyone says to each other in this place, have a great summer. I say to Canadians, take your summer and make sure your MP knows you don't like the things you're seeing. Make sure your MP, especially a Liberal MP, knows that we noticed what was in the Liberal platform. It was promises on climate change. It wasn't promises to build pipelines. To notice that there was nothing in the Liberal platform that said, we will make the most progressive move in over half a century to make it easier to have toxic pesticides spread across the landscape than ever before. It was never in their platform. It wasn't in the budget, but we just pushed it through on Bill C-30, the Spring Economic Statement Implementation Bill.
When pushed by members of the press gallery about these accusations, the government is muzzling debate and ramming through bills. The House leader suggested it's all in a day's work.
Have you kept tally on how many times the Liberals have used procedural motions like time allocation to limit or shut down debate?
I have not.
Why not?
I have bills to pass, work to do, things to do.
Shouldn't MPs be debating these things?
As I think I just explained, we spent 25 hours to take maybe the most contentious legislation, Bill C-22, as an example. We spent 25 hours in committee. Now, the Conservatives choosing to use that time to filibuster and obstruct is their decision. That is a choice they will have to defend. But there exists enough time in the calendar between committees and the House of Commons to amply debate every piece of legislation we have passed. How the opposition uses that time is up to them.
That's it for your MP in Ottawa for about the next 3 months. It won't be back in the chamber until the 21st of September. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow
Returns on News Radio.
He's our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, branding, and leadership. Barry McLoughlin is the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. He teaches at the University of Ottawa's Professional Development Institute and at Cape Breton University's Shannon School of Business. And in fact, coming up on Saturday, June 27th, Barry and his partner, Laura Peck, who's a Cape Bretoner, and you should all listen to her, they will be conducting a one-day seminar live online and in person at the Shannon School of Business called Get Your Message Across in an Age of Uncertainty. And you can check that out at cbu.ca/events. Barry McLoughlin, welcome back.
Hey, great to be with you, Rob. And we're really looking forward to heading back to Cape Breton for that seminar, that's for sure.
Take me with you, Barry. Take me with you.
Well, we had 83 last year, so we're seeing what our numbers are going to be like this year. Yeah.
You watched the soccer game yesterday?
Every minute of it, for sure. Yeah.
It was great, wasn't it? Wasn't that exciting, Barry? It was.
It was very exciting. And it's funny. I grew up in an era where we didn't even really do it in high school. It was always either football or it was traditional sports. But it's just become an incredible major sport across this country, and you saw the absolute craziness of Canadians in every location across this country just cheering wildly. And we finally have, I think, reached a stage where we are truly World Cup level kind of champions, and we're World Cup level kind of audiences. It's just terrific.
Yeah. What did you think of Mark Carney being there instead of Ottawa for the last sitting day of the House?
normally you would say, you know what, you've been traveling enough there, Prime Minister. Why don't you get back to the house? Normally, that's true. I don't think this is quite a normal thing. I mean, you saw the explosion. And there'll probably be an equal number of Canadians to say, where's our Prime Minister? This is the biggest event in sports, this year involving a Canadian team. And, he would be noted by his absence. He's over in Europe somewhere. The fact that he flew from France directly to Vancouver to do this, and then I think he played it about right. He went into the dressing room. He didn't do the, Kash Patel kind of semi-drunken, with the players, but a very kind of, I think, appropriate type of comments to the team, and it was really, I think, well done. So, and he's sitting there next to the FIFA president, and that's great for developing future relationships. So I don't think Canadians will overly, I know the Conservatives are trying to beat that drum, but I think on this particular one, it won't go very far.
Well, I think I'm pretty sure I agree with you. They're trying to tie it into a broader trend, and we talked about this last week. If you don't show up for work, Mr. Ignatieff, you don't get a promotion. And he's been away for 100 question periods, and they're pointing out and not all of them have been when he's traveling around the world. 64 times he was in Ottawa and still didn't make the trip up to the Hill to take some questions. But let me run this by you. I call this Carney's Cup adjacent. Clearly, if you're a politician, and we see this, we see Mark Carney in the Team Canada jersey. We've seen him in an Edmonton Oilers jersey. We've seen him at the Blue Jays game. Now we see him at the soccer game. Politicians do try to get a boost from sports, especially when the team is playing well. Okay, Stephen Harper used to go to sports games all the time.
Yeah,
right?
I remember seeing him there. Absolutely.
Do you remember when Harper was he was going into, was it the Royal York? I think he was going into the Royal York to see the football game, to watch the Grey Cup, and people, Harper. And there, in the Vancouver games, 2010, I remember Don Martin, the great correspondent for the Calgary Herald, who went on to work on Parliament Hill for CTV News, said Stephen Harper hopes to get kind of a boost from the Vancouver games, and there's going to be an election in 2011. What happened in 2011?
He won.
Harper's
majority government.
His one and only majority government, right?
Yeah.
So they like to bask in the glow of this, but it can backfire too. You remember the Bob Stanfield thing? For people who don't, you remember it? The Bob Stanfield dropping the football. Can you explain that to our listeners, Barry? What happened there?
Okay, so the Stanfield progressive conservative, campaign plane is going to refuel and stop in North Bay. They're stretching out on the runway, the reporters and photographers and that. And one of the aides tosses a football to Bob Stanfield, and it's thrown back and forth. I heard directly 20 times he caught it. One time it was kind of thrown too low and slipped between his hands and went down onto the pavement. Well, of course, the CP photographer was right there to capture that photo, and it went everywhere. It led the newscasts. It was in every paper across this country. And basically they said that was the difference in a tight race with Pierre Trudeau.
Yeah, because Pierre Trudeau was this, at the time, the young, dynamic, virile leader, right? And Bob Stanfield dropping the football. It left this image that he was...
I know he was very good at it too. It's also very unfair, but he had a great sense of humor about it in his later years. He had a lot of jokes everywhere he went about it, so he knew how to deal with it.
Good. Danny dollars. There were Ralph Bucks. Now there are Danny dollars. Maybe we'll spend the Danny dollars at Zellers. We'll tie it all together when we come back with Barry McLoughlin. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Back with Barry McLoughlin, president of TLC Transformational Leadership Consultants. $100 in Danny dollars. Curtis was saying he's going to get a tank of gas. His car takes premium fuel, Barry, so a tank of gas is like $100 for Curtis. So.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so Alberta's flush with cash again because the oil price has been high, and the premier wants to send some money to 3.4 million of her residents. $100 in Danny dollars. What do you think of the idea, Barry?
Well, it usually works because, people don't trust when governments say, oh, I've cut this, you get a tax credit or, but when they physically get something coming directly from the government, usually it kind of works. Didn't really work much on GST refunds, I noticed, but on this one, you would think it would work, but I think people now are become very, very cynical about these moves, So I think that's $3.4 billion or something that's being given away. Maybe they kind of want to do something else with that. But anyway, the bottom line is that nobody's going to say no to $100, whether it moves her on the dial or not. I mean, she's getting hit from both sides on this referendum issue. She's kind of like not exactly hitting her stride at a critical time, and she needs something tangible to point to. Even if it's only $100, people that are really in pretty tough circumstances, they will appreciate the $100. I'm not sure she'll get a lot of political credit for it, though, but that's up in the air.
All right. I don't know if there are plans to open Zellers in Alberta again, but Zellers has a new Canadian owner with some experience in Canadian retail, and they've bought up the brand from HBC. I remember Club Z, Barry.
Sure.
I remember the cafeteria. I remember Zellers commercials like this. Let's play the ad.
Ladies and gentlemen, take your position. Double points days at Zellers. 2 incredible days of double Club Z points on almost everything in the store. That means you can earn free rewards faster. Double points days at Zellers. This Saturday and Sunday only. Don't miss it. Double Club Z points days at Zellers, where the lowest price is the law and more.
I remember that. Where the lowest price is the law. Where the lowest price is the law.
Absolutely.
But look, I mean, that was generations ago. Like, who remembers any of this now in 2026? Do you think a Zellers comeback could work in a minute or less?
Well, I think a rebrand is possible. It was the most, widespread rewards. Everybody had a Club Z card in their wallet, but even the Triangle Rewards of Canadian Tire Company, I don't think comes quite as close. So, it has an opportunity. They got to get it right. I think cheap discount stores thrown into malls isn't going to work. So I'd love to see what their rebranded version is because, Canadians have a lot more options today. They are open to discounted prices. They need some kind of unique quality to them. Like Winners has figured out that combination. They got to find something that connects with the customer at home. And so far, it's up in the air. But I'm always happy to see somebody rejoin and see if they can actually make it.
Okay, we'll see what happens with Zellers. Barry, have yourself a great weekend. And maybe next week we'll be reaching you in Cape Breton next week.
That's right. We will be in Cape Breton for that.
You lucky guy. All right. All the best and safe travels. Safe travels to the island, Barry. Thank you. Bye-bye. That's Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Tom Korski is just ahead. He's the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Well, he has been minding Ottawa's business all week long. Tom Korski's back with us, the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. Great to hear from you again.
Well, thank you, Rob.
I wish I could just take a vote. Me and Curtis take a vote. Hey, Curtis, do you want Friday off? Carried? Carried! Okay. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that around here or anywhere else, apparently, except the House of Commons. I thought this was going to happen. I've seen this happen so many times. The House calendar says Friday. Okay, Friday's going to be the last day before we break for the summer. And then magically, Tom, they get everything wrapped up and there's a motion. Everybody want to call it quits on Thursday, and it passed. And that's what happened yesterday, right?
Correct, and they're off for 13 weeks for their summer recess. It's interesting, Rob, the Commons calendar is really still on the old 19th century steam engine agricultural society calendar. There are few legislative bodies left in the English-speaking world that take 13 weeks off in the summer, but they do.
Oh, yeah. And, that's a short break compared to what Doug Ford is doing in Ontario, of course, as you're well aware. 21 weeks. Like being an MPP now, apparently in Ontario is like part-time work. You're only making laws and debating legislation 6 months of the year, but that's another story. Maybe I'll talk about that later. So when you
exactly, it merely means that bureaucracies are running themselves. There's no oversight. That's the effect of it.
So when you listen to the government House Leader Steve McKinnon says, a very robust session. We passed 22 pieces of legislation. Okay, when you consider the bills that did actually make it through the House, what stands out for you as someone who watches these sorts of things like a hawk, Tom? What should we be paying attention to?
Budget bill is the standout. A simply disastrous budget bill. This was 30 and 31. Budget legislation. This is one of the worst budgets of all time. How bad could it be? The government is now making up deficit figures. Their budget tables are literally fiction. That's the Parliamentary Budget Office that called them weeks after the budget bills were tabled to say that Cabinet had misrepresented its deficit, not by a slight amount, by $12 billion, that it was misrepresenting achievement of its targets on lowering the deficit to GDP. Rob, it is so bad. I tell friends that you should really, especially if you're under the age of 30, start incorporating tax planning into your everyday life. Should I get married now? What province should I live in? Should I be self-employed or not? If you do not incorporate tax planning, trust me, someone is going to have to pay for these deficits. They're coming for you tomorrow. The budget bills were disastrous.
Okay. The government stands accused of using budget bills like a budget implementation bill, for example, which is supposed to be a financial bill and deal with the government's finances, where the money's coming from, where it's going to go. But they are putting stuff in there because it's more or less omnibus legislation dealing with non-financial matters. This is an accusation from the opposition. But how accurate is it, do you think, Tom?
Oh, it's absolutely accurate. There are omnibus budget bills. There was one year a cabinet tabled two budget bills that ran to 1,200 pages combined, and they routinely amend 50 to 60 acts of Parliament, from the Criminal Code to the Weights and Measures Act. They will throw everything in that hopper and jam it through on closure. This has gone on for years, so they can meet their 13-week summer adjournment. It happens constantly.
Okay. The Senate is dominated by Liberal appointees now. In your opinion, though, how are senators in the upper chamber actually doing it, reviewing legislation? Is this a rubber stamp Senate, or do they seem to be taking their time with things? What would you say?
In my view, they are rubber stamp. There's always a bit of huffing and puffing. And the Senate appointees will tell you, look, we're independent. It says so right here on my business card. But I can point to, air quotes, independent senators who have a better Liberal voting record than some members of the Liberal caucus in the Commons. And the iron law is the Senate has not defeated a government bill in 30 years. That's a fact. It goes back to 1996 was the last time Chrétien was prime minister. That's the last time the Senate killed a government bill. So there is a sort of this kind of theater that goes on in the Senate with some of the government appointees every June, and they say, we're so unhappy. I'm frowning severely at this bill, but everyone knows how they're going to vote in the end, and they always do.
And the Senate and the House don't necessarily break on the same day or come back on the same day. Is that right, Tom?
They do not. There have been occasions where the Senate had to do some cleanup work because they're really a part-time legislative body. The Senate really doesn't meet most Mondays and Fridays, even when they're supposed to be on the beat. And there have been some years where they've gone in a couple of days into July, which, oh, my heavens.
Oh, gosh. I can't imagine the complaining about that. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Why do I have to be here until July? I've been slaving away here 3 days a week. Okay.
Work.
Look, work around the clock, the busy beavers. When we come back, the CEO, Tom, how much is Canada Post losing again?
Last year was $1.6 billion.
1.8, and something like that.
Their quarterly loss was $200 million.
Okay. A bonus for the CEO. Okay. A bonus for the CEO. We'll talk about the future of Canada's coal mining industry. And we found a high flyer, a really high flyer. Loves Paris. Tell you who that is when we come back. With Tom Korski from Blacklock's reporter, I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Back with Tom Korski, the managing editor at Blacklock's reporter. So we have talked many times, Tom, you and I, about the dire financial situation at Canada Post. The losses keep mounting. I mean, $200 million per quarter, $1.6 billion, hasn't made a penny in profit in almost 10 years.
That's right.
And yet the CEO of Canada Post admitted to MPs this week, managers are getting bonuses, yes?
Correct. He wouldn't say how much. MPs said, well. You table that figure, and the CEO, Doug Ettinger, said, I will do so. This was the Commons Government Operations Committee dying minutes of the session, as you mentioned, Rob. The bonuses were paid, according to the Chief Executive Officer, to some 7,000, including managers, administration staff, frontline supervisors, and others. As mentioned, he would not say what the figure is, but clearly it would run to millions. Why is this a problem? The only reason Canada Post is delivering mail today is because they got a $2 billion, essentially interest-free loan from the federal cabinet. $2 billion. They have said that was to avoid insolvency. Why would you pay bonuses when you are relying on interest-free loans from the taxpayer? Ettinger said, well, I lose sleep at night thinking about the good people that we're going to lose because they're moving on. So this is the difficulty that MPs have, Rob. Is this about stopping the losses, or is it about keeping good people? Is it about delivering the mail, or is it about collecting the bonuses? Because clearly they cannot do all of those things all at the same time. It's a problem.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how much Canada Post has paid out in bonuses. This is a large corporation, some 50 to 60,000 employees. It's many times greater in size and scope than, say, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, which only has about 3,000 employees, and yet somehow managed to pay out, according to Blacklock's reporting, more than $30 million in bonuses 2 years ago. It's many times greater in size and scope than Via Rail, which paid out $11 million in bonuses. So you're right. The bonuses must be in the tens of millions of dollars, one would think, Tom. I think that's safe to assume.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to get those figures. But you don't get a sense of really distress at the post office. Forgive my candor. With post office management, when you're looking at the historic losses that they are looking at, and so far, their answer has been to stop delivering the mail to doorsteps for 600,000 home addresses. That's not getting it done. They talked about doing that 10 years ago. How many times do you have to ram into the iceberg before there becomes a sense of almost panic or at least survival? This is not bonus time. Winners get bonuses. Companies that lose $1.6 billion don't get bonuses.
Yeah. Canada Post is, it's not Google. Okay. Times are tough at Canada Post. And they're going to be a lot tougher in the future when the restructuring begins. Okay, let's move along. Elizabeth May wants to blacklist coal. Tell me more.
She sponsored a petition in the House of Commons that said coal it's a rock, but it ought to be blacklisted as toxic under the Canadian Environmental Protection Act. Well, that's never no mind, except the Department of Health replied to the petition in a report tabled in the House of Commons. What did they say? They said, if you have strong feelings about coal being toxic on account of climate change, you may submit a petition to the Minister of Environment to assess thermal coal to determine if it is as bad for the world as mercury, lead, or asbestos. What does that mean? That means the feds would regulate every time a wheel turns in the coal industry. It's really the death of coal.
I mean, it makes me wonder. I mean, Elizabeth May is a BC MP. She surely sees the big piles of coal at the port in Prince Rupert, right? We're talking about the largest export out of British Columbia is coal. It's soon going to be natural gas, but for now it's coal.
No, absolutely. And a lot of that is for steel
metallurgical
production.
coal for steel making, yes.
But I agree. No, Ms. May she'd go to Elk Valley. There's a little town there. It's called Coaldale. And she can tell them all about climate change.
Right. Okay, we have found ourselves a high flyer. And gosh, does she love Paris. Tell us about Canada's Chief Science Advisor.
Her name is Dr. Mona Niemer. She's a biochemist from the University of Ottawa. And she's kind of a science tourist. She calls herself a science diplomat, but I think we could go with tourist. And she has run up extraordinary expenses, travel expenses of, to date, $416,000, likes to fly business class. You are correct, Rob. She has taken a dozen business class junkets to Paris over her tenure. Her contract isn't up until 2027. And on occasion, we see through access to information, has stayed at a hotel in Paris that charges $970 a night. 12 business class flights to Paris. And she has defended this from time to time by saying, this is about outreach. I'm a champion of open science.
Outreach. It's about outreach. It's about outreach.
Isn't it funny, though, that science outreach is always Paris in the springtime? It's never Gary, Indiana in February.
Yeah. I love this. This is MP Ho, Vincent Ho, Richmond Hill. Quote, what exactly are Canadian taxpayers paying you to do? How does your office add any value? Quote, we add value by bringing people together. Isn't that lovely? Yeah,
it's
bringing people together. Yeah.
It is
$393,000. Yeah, a year for 12. Of course, business class, right, Tom? Because only suckers fly economy, right? Yeah,
only losers
got to be business
economy.
class.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Oh, man. Mona Niemer. God bless her. Okay. Thank you, Tom Korski. Have a wonderful weekend, sir.
You
Talk
too.
to you next
Thank
week.
You, Rob.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Tom Korski. Minding Ottawa's business. Aren't you glad someone is? I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
If you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. You can listen live. You can listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. All kinds of exclusive audio there you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. And Now You Know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, in sports, here's something that you haven't heard in a while.
And he gets into this one. Deep left center, and it's gone.
Yeah, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on the very first pitch of the game, taking one over the Green Monster at Fenway Park in the Toronto Blue Jays game against the Boston Red Sox. Vladdy's fourth home run of the season. His first since May 17th, so more than a month. But that helped lead the Jays to a series sweep over the Boston Red Sox. The Jays have since traveled to Chicago. They are opening a series with the Cubs today. In fact, starts in about an hour and 20 minutes. A matinee start, 2:25 Eastern time on Sportsnet for that one. In fact, all three games against the Cubs over the weekend start at that time. After the Chicago stint, the Jays will head back to Toronto for a 10-game homestand that will take the club all the way to Canada Day. Now, despite the lackluster season so far for the Jays, they are still very much in the thick of it in the wild card race in the American League. They hold down the final wild card spot right now. Kevin Gausman gets the call for the Jays today. On the pitch at the World Cup, United States versus Australia, 3:00 Eastern. That game is in Seattle. 6 o'clock Eastern, it's Scotland and Morocco. That game's in Philadelphia. And later tonight, Brazil and Haiti. That's also in Philadelphia. And there is even a late game, 11 o'clock Eastern time. I don't think I'll be around for that one. Turkey and Paraguay. Coming to you live from Santa Clara, California. If 3-down football is more your thing, it's the BC Lions in Hamilton facing the Tiger Cats tonight, and then it's tomorrow the Argos in Ottawa against the Red Blacks. The poor Argos, I have to say, because of the World Cup, the Toronto Argonauts don't get to play a home game until the 10th week of the CFL season. 10 weeks on the road, 9 weeks on the road. Triple header, as a matter of fact, for CFL tomorrow. Alouettes in Edmonton and the Stampeders hosting the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And round 2 of golf's third major of the year underway, the U.S. Open from Shinnecock Hills, Southampton, New York. Wyndham Clark continues his hot play. He's atop the leaderboard. Corey Connors, so far so good for the top Canadian, inside the top 5 right now at the U.S. Open. Friday free-for-all, Talkback, is right after the news, so you can take the lead, pick a topic, and we will roll with it at 1-833-668-2577. Love to hear from you today on anything that happens to be on your mind. Right after the latest breaking news on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. It's the Friday free-for-all. Welcome to it. We don't come up with the topics on Fridays. We always have a few ready to go. But we always prefer on Friday to know what's on your mind. So what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about today? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, well, there's always news, plenty of news this week, plenty of news today. If you want to talk about something that you think should be in the news, by all means, call me now and raise it here at 1-833-668-2577, whatever it happens to be, okay? Can be serious, can be not so serious. I have a phone line for you right now. You call now, you get on the air. As I said, all the phone lines are open, 1-833-668-2577. And if you've never called before, just mention that you're a first-time caller to Curtis, and we will make your call a priority, 1-833-668-2577. Anyone watch that hockey game yesterday? Oh, no, it wasn't a hockey game. It just felt like a hockey game. It was a soccer game. Football. Soccer game. Of course, there must be somebody listening right now who watched that game. Yes, heck of a game. Heck of a game. Lots of fun. Lots of goals for the good guys. Big win for the good guys. First World Cup win ever for Canada. And it happened in Canada. That's kind of cool. Now, look, I'll be right up front with you. I'm not a big soccer fan. I don't watch a lot of soccer. I don't know a lot about the sport. I'm more of a, hockey, football, baseball kind of guy. But when the World Cup is on, I do follow it. I take interest in it because it's sports and it's on TV, which is usually good enough for me. And I'm certainly more interested this year because it's being played in Canada. I feel invested in it because, well, we're all paying a lot of money through our taxes to host these games. What is it, like $85 million a game in taxpayers' dollars? But setting that aside, my goodness, what a game yesterday. What a game. What a game. I wasn't expecting that. I don't think anybody was expecting that. 6 goals? 6 goals? Are you kidding me? In a soccer game? A hat trick for Canada? I mean, one of the reasons, honest to goodness, I don't watch a lot of soccer is because there aren't a lot of shots and there aren't a lot of goals. But gosh, that was exciting yesterday. Before the game, I was listening to some of the experts, and they were giving Canada a pretty good chance at winning the game. But Come on. Who saw that one coming? So to any soccer fans out there, you're going to know a lot more about soccer than I would know about soccer. Okay? Next game is Wednesday of next week. Canada plays Switzerland. How do you like Canada's chances right now against Switzerland? Okay. Do you think we're done for? Like, we're so high on this after this game and this big win. Are we gonna like fall right back to earth here and have our hearts broken? Do you think Canada could manage a draw against the Swiss? Do you think Canada could win and beat a team like Switzerland? I mean, okay, so we had a draw with Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then we put the absolute boots to the Qataris. What about Switzerland? And what about Switzerland? Just how, because I'm invested in this now. All right, just how high should my hopes be? 1-833-668-2577. If you were watching the game, you saw Prime Minister Carney was at the game, sitting in the private suite next to the head of FIFA. Pretty nice seats. And then he went down to the team's dressing room, gave a little speech, right? Expressed how proud he was of the players. All well and good. Okay, all well and good. Or is this all well and good? Because back in Ottawa, I mean, it was the final question period until September, last sitting day for the House of Commons until after Labor Day. And I mean, the Conservatives, they've been really pounding away at the Prime Minister. You know, you're never in question period. You've missed more than 100 question periods. Even when you're in Ottawa, you've missed question periods 64 times. And it's not like he's been in Dublin or Paris or London or Dubai or any of the other dozens of places that he's visited in the last year. 64 times he's in Ottawa, doesn't even bother going to question period. Does that matter to you? Does it matter to you that the Prime Minister was in Vancouver watching Canada at the World Cup instead of being in question period? Or could you care less if the Prime Minister's in question period? More than 100 times. Since he's become Prime Minister, he's missed question period. But does it bother you at all? Or are you like, meh, who cares? And it's important to go and be seen as the Prime Minister of Canada cheering on your team at the World Cup on home soil. I'd also ask our listeners in Ontario about Premier Doug Ford. In it for the little guy, you know. Premier Doug Ford is giving his MPPs a 6-month break from the legislature. 6 months. 6 months. Politicians won't be debating any bills, passing any bills in Ontario. 6 months. Like none, nada, zilch. You have a premier who makes $280,000 a year. You have cabinet ministers who are making $230,000 a year. An ordinary backbench MPP is making $163,000. And they don't have to be debating any bills, passing any bills, sitting in the legislature, scrolling on their phones for 6 months. For 6 months? I mean, what do you think of that, everyone? They all just got big raises. And yet, from the looks of it, it's like being an MPP in Ontario. It's a part-time job now. And you can take half the year off, thanks to Doug Ford. You know, because he's in it for the little guy. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Friday, free-for-all, Talkback. Again, lines available. If you're a first-time caller, mention it to Curtis, okay? And we'll bump you up, make you a priority today. Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Out to Calgary for the first time today. Karen is there on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Hi, Karen.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Hanging in there, Karen. How about you?
Good, good. Beautiful here today, finally.
Oh, that's good. Good for you. You deserve it.
Yeah.
What's on your mind, Karen?
Following up with yesterday's talk about Albertans and how arrogant and narcissistic they are. Well,
according to some of your fellow Albertans, yeah. According to some of your fellow Albertans, yeah.
Absolutely. However, somebody said 30% of Albertans are entrepreneurs, correct? What entrepreneurs do you know?
Well, somebody said there's a more entrepreneurial can-do spirit in Alberta than that isn't found in other parts of the country.
Absolutely. And what happens when you're an entrepreneur and working 24/7? You're a bit of a snake. You don't always get to take a break. You're a little bit more curt. You're a little bit more hands-on. You're a little bit more rush because the guy's paying for everything. The owners are trying to make their money and working like dogs. My husband worked 23 hours in a row at a concert without a break and secondhand food. Without a break. Food. 23 hours in a row.
What do you mean secondhand food? What is secondhand?
Well, let's just say this: the artist got certain food, and the crew got second-rate food. So junky food, and the artist and everybody else ate deluxe dinners. So that's what they give you for 23 hours in a row.
Yee, that doesn't sound pleasant at all. Yeah. No, I mean what I was trying to drive at yesterday is it all about, the separation movement? Is it all about just economics and feeling kind of ripped off economically in the Confederation and power? What I called the democratic deficit of Alberta. You don't have the votes, you don't have the seats, that kind of stuff. Or is there something more to it? Is there a cultural thing to it?
It's the economic power. We don't have the votes, so people are defeated. I mean, can you imagine being, Nova Scotia and PEI have more seats than we do? What's that about? I mean, what about proportional representation that Justin tried, in 2015, and Baga Charda or whatever lost her seat and her, her status because she couldn't do it or wouldn't do it.
Well, I mean, whether Bardish Jagger was going to do it, the ultimate responsibility would lie with the Prime Minister. He said that the 2015 election would be the last election under first past the post. But when the Liberals won a majority government with barely, 36 or 37% of the vote, all of a sudden first past the post was perfectly fine for them.
That's
correct. In the following two elections, they barely got 33% of the vote.
And we got shafted again.
Worked perfectly well for them. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that, opposition parties say they're in love with, getting rid of first past the post and moving ahead with proportional representation until they eke out an election victory with, a little more than a third of the vote.
It's all a mess, Rob, isn't it?
Then the system works just fine for them, right?
You're right there.
Yeah.
It all depends who's in power.
All right, Karen. Thank you for your call. Yeah, good to hear from you. Lots of lines available there, folks, for the Friday Free for All Talkback. We are open topic today, okay? You pick a topic, and I will do my best to follow along and understand your reasoning about why you're interested in that topic. Love to hear from you. Again, 1-833-668-2577. The latest breaking news is coming up next. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday Free for All Talkback wide open. Today, let's get things started with James in Halifax. Hello, James.
Hi. Thanks. A couple of things quickly. You just mentioned Doug Ford and the 6 months adjournment to recess. That sounds a bit over the top, of course, excessive. But I would encourage you, maybe I happen to be a volunteer involved in politics, not a politician, not a paid staffer, whatever. And of course, politicians do things when they're not actually in the legislature. It's, they do things if they're good representatives of the people. They go and talk to people, they go to community meetings, they go door to door, they try to learn what their constituents care about. So,
and why do they? I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But why do they do that?
I mean,
right?
And you could get any political. You don't even have to get a politician on. A political scientist could explain that the job is not obviously just when you're sitting in the legislature.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. You're going. You're going to local Legion halls. You're going to community centers. You're knocking on doors. You're hearing from constituents. But why are you hearing from your constituents?
And you get a million
why are you
emails,
hearing from your constituents? Eventually, so you can go back to the legislature and present your constituents' concerns at the legislature, and craft legislation to address those concerns. And half of the year, they won't be doing that, which is unacceptable.
No, I don't disagree on that particular score, but I don't think it's the same story in every province. It's certainly not that same story in Nova Scotia. Even when the legislature isn't in session, and I don't know about Ontario, but committees meet outside of the, quote, recess period. Anyway, one other point, if you don't mind.
Sure thing, James. Go ahead. Yep.
You had an item on about the expenses, and I'm sorry I didn't catch all the details. I believe it might have been a bureaucrat as opposed to a politician, but regardless, whether bureaucrat, when you were interviewing your guest, whether bureaucrat or politician, anecdotal evidence, so specific examples can be very instructive, but I'd love it if you or whomever, you could find a guest who would go behind the anecdotal inflammatory example, state the policy that allowed that person to claim those expenses, and then we could decide whether to be outraged about the policy or whether perhaps an individual was bending a policy, if I could put it that way.
Well, we know from the reporting in Blacklock's reporter that she was given a wide berth, blanket authority to travel.
So,
but
maybe I missed that. I apologize.
Are these appropriate travel expenses, or are these extravagant travel expenses? When someone, we're talking here, sir, if I could, you're talking about $415,000 in travel expenses for an advisor, the science advisor, and really nobody can really figure out what the heck this office does.
So the example sounds absolutely inappropriate and extravagant. So it would be lovely to know that there's an actual federal government policy that says X, Y, Z people are allowed to claim unlimited expenses, because that would be a bad thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Seems like a giant waste of money to me. The only report that this person has issued of note that even anyone was interested was advising the government on revising how Canadians can report UFO sightings. That has been the great contribution thus far since the creation of Canada's chief science advisor. But my gosh, 12 business class trips to Paris sounds well worth it to me for Dr. Mona Niemer out of the University of Ottawa. Thank you for your call. James in Halifax. I'm Rob Snow. 1-833-668-2577. Friday free for all Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, it is the Friday Free for All Talkback. I haven't asked you this week about this news story. Maybe I'll just throw it out there as another conversation starter here on the Friday. Your Danny dollars, our listeners in Alberta, your Danny dollars, you're going to get Danny dollars. You had the Ralph Bucks like 20 years ago or whatever. Now you're getting your Danny dollars. 100 Danny dollars. 100 Danny dollars. $100. Energy rebate because, the Alberta Treasury is flush again because of the rise in oil prices. So the Premier, Danielle Smith, will give you a little bit of your money back. How generous. 3.4 million Albertans getting Danny dollars as long as the household income, well, I think the threshold is what, 225 grand a year? $100. Okay, $100. $100. Okay. Cha-ching. Jackpot. Bingo. What are you going to do with your $100? Your newfound riches. Is it spoken for already? $340 million. Total cost of the program, a return from the government to the taxpayer in $100 increments. $340 million, still a lot of money. Is this the best way to spend it? Okay, giving people $100? Or, this is the classic question. What's the better decision for the government to make? Give everyone $100 or spend the $340 million on affordable housing, social welfare, public education, healthcare, whatever. It could be a long list, right? Danny dollars, $100. Go wild. Everyone go wild in Wild Rose Country with your $100, your Danny dollars. What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. $100. Holy smokes. What could you get? Like 4 or 5 things at the grocery store, half a tank of gas, maybe. Reza in Calgary. Reza.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, Reza. Yeah. How you doing?
Good. As usual, I'm driving on the road.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, for some reason, this is how I feel. Governments are no longer accountable, really, and they make their own rules. Sometimes they follow them, sometimes they don't follow them, and I don't think the size of you see, Carney wants to reduce the size of a government. I don't think that's the problem. It's the quality of government, the wastefulness of government that is hurting us. It's not like I lived in Europe, in Netherlands. The prime minister used bike to his office, or I don't know, they set by example how they're efficient, how they care. Here we don't have that, unfortunately. In government, all its levels, from NMAX, City of Calgary, you see the bonuses, the corruptions you hear right now. It's just, I think, getting worse because we removed that accountability. Who's to question them? Army investigates its own self. Police investigates its own self. They don't have to answer to anybody. And I don't know if there's a solution. It's a culture. It's a very bad culture, I think, that we no longer have efficient government.
So what do you think? What would help maybe improve accountability and go a little bit to maybe restore your faith or your trust in government? What would you recommend, Reza? What are some steps that could be taken?
Well, I think we should create groups within different levels of government to change culture. That should be their own only mandate they have, to talk to people. Like, you see, the politicians change, but the middle management in government never changes. And they're the ones that they carry, those bureaucrats, the ones that carry that old culture. And it's getting worse. They feel more entitled. They never have to answer to anyone. And that is what's hurting. Like, prime ministers come and go. Maybe they're good, maybe they're not good. That's not the problem. The problem is that middle management in all levels of government, that they're entitled, and you need a kind of a task team, an action plan, like something that we have to change our culture in all levels. It's not Canada Post The question is why we can't make money. I mean, do you know that? Why we can't make money? Why other countries can't make money? Why we have to subsidize Canada Post? It's not by laying off people making new boxes. There's something wrong and we don't know what is that.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Thank you.
Deep enough.
Okay, Reza, thank you. Reza wants more accountability, more oversight, a restoration of trust and integrity in government. I appreciate that, Reza. Thank you for your call. Kris is in Calgary as well today. Hello, Kris.
Hey, good afternoon, Rob. Beautiful day in Calgary.
Kris.
How's it out east?
It's pouring rain where I am right now. There's kind of like this big, if you look at it on a weather map, there's like this big blob of precipitation that goes from basically, I'd say, let me see here, Sault Ste. Marie to Charlottetown, and I'm stuck in the middle of it.
Holy moly. Well, we're supposed to get rain over the weekend, so we'll join the club. Hey, listen, just a couple of quick comments, if I may, about topics that you've talked about this week. First of all, yesterday you were asking about the culture in Alberta or the general feeling or whatnot. I think generally, and I have lived in all of the provinces from Ontario west, plus the Northwest Territories and Nunavut, so I won't claim to be an expert, but I've had that experience. I think Albertans tend to be far more independent than in other provinces. And by the way, you can't make a blanket statement. Of course, there are exceptions to this, but they generally aren't interested in depending on government. They want government to get the heck out of their way. They're more entrepreneurial. They're more get out of my way, let me live my own life, and I'll work hard and make something of my life.
Gotcha.
That's the first one. Now, and by the way, I listened to one guy yesterday that said Albertans were arrogant and self-serving, and I think you probably remember that caller. You kind of said,
I do.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I don't know who that guy's talking to.
He said people in Alberta have a superiority complex.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of other derogatory words. I don't know who that guy's talking to because I don't know anybody like that. So I don't know. But anyway, in terms of the Daniel bucks or whatever they call it.
Your Danny dollars, yeah. Your $100 bucks.
What
are you going to spend $100 on?
I have one thing to say about that. Well, la-ti-da. It's not going to go far. It's going to go to my credit card. And finally, very quickly, I hear the music in the background. In terms of independence, for me, it's not economic. It's not representational. Those are all very good, valid arguments. For me, it's personal freedom. The government just passed, 4 bills that are going to censor people. They'll throw you in jail if you have beliefs that are, quote, harmful, whatever the hell that is. I want to get out of Canada because I want to be free.
Okay. Well, you're free to call me anytime, even though I kind of disagree with... I was with you up until the last bit there. I thank you for your call, though, Kris. And you're free to call back anytime and have your say. And you're free now to call me, the Friday Free For All Talkback Hour. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's go to the lovely town of Guelph, Ontario, and take a call from Bill, the Friday Free For All Talkback. Hi, Bill.
Hello. I'm just concerned about the selling off to the greedy corporations of our only Canadian hockey game. It's always been called for decades, Hockey Night in Canada. Now we're giving that up. What's wrong with this government? They're trying to save the country and they're letting...
that doesn't really have anything... I don't think it has anything to do with the government. That's a business decision made by the CBC to do that, sir.
But the government should help CBC keep the hockey games. At least we'd have something. The poor seniors can't afford to pay more money to just watch a hockey game. We can't afford the ticket prices to go to a hockey game, and we can barely afford food.
Well, I understand that, Bill. And look, I your personal plight, I take to heart. I really do. But honest to goodness, to suggest that somehow the CBC is in dire straits, I would certainly dispute that, sir. It's $1.8 billion a year the taxpayers are paying right now in an annual subsidy to the CBC. $1.8 billion a year, sir.
But isn't that enough to keep the hockey night in Canada for the poor people?
Well, the thing is, the rights to acquire the privilege of airing hockey games in Canada is very expensive. And in fact, if the company that I work for didn't spend all that money, who knows where the hockey would be, if you'd be able to watch hockey at all. It's very expensive.
Well, but we should be allowed to have some pleasure in life.
Well, sir, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we can explore that if you want to as we make our way through. I know it was a big news story this week that the CBC has decided that it's not going to be part of its Rogers partnership anymore. It sounds to me like that's a CBC decision. The CBC wants to go off into other directions and air other sports, primarily amateur sports and women's professional hockey.
And then the province turns around and they're only working 6 months a year now.
Well, the CBC though, you don't have to pass the hat for the CBC, sir. The CBC is quite well funded and is quite likely the most well funded news organization in the country with taxpayers' money. $1.8 billion. I keep seeing the CBC is free. You can watch the CBC for free. Well, the CBC is not free. The CBC is free the same way that healthcare in Canada is free. It's not free. Okay? The CBC is not free. The hockey games are not free. You're paying for it with your tax dollars. We have about 18 million taxpayers in the country. Everybody's paying $100 a year.
We're paying
to fund
for
the CBC.
A lot of things and it's being taken away from us.
Okay, you are
by the big corporations.
By the big corporations. Okay, well, without the big corporation that I work for, sir, it's hard to say if there'd be any hockey on television at all. Thank you, though, for your call. All the best to you. Bill in Guelph. Be right back. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
All right, Bruce is in Calgary. He's licking his chops to peel off those Kris new $10 bills, all 10 of them, $100 and Danny dollars. He's on Talkback today. Hello, Bruce in Calgary. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm very good, Bruce. Thank you. What's on your mind, Bruce? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, just the current things going on. Danny dollars. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind getting a little bit back from the government. I certainly think it's a lot better than it being included in the equalization payments that come out of this province.
Okay. Again, equalization's a federal program. It's not a provincial program, but I'm not going to get into that again. Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's an unfair federal program.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, if I could just ask you a question for a quick moment here is, why on earth should we have to be indentured slaves to the East just because of where we live?
And what makes you think that you're an indentured slave?
Well,
you have the highest. You have the highest. Pardon me, sir. You asked me a question. Let me answer it.
Yeah.
Albertans have the highest incomes in Canada. If you are slaves, you're the highest paid slaves in all of Canada.
Well, things never get any cheaper. Like,
so
just because we get paid more doesn't mean we don't end up
like this
paying
is
more
the
out
world's
as well, right?
look. This is the world's smallest violin. Do you think life is any cheaper in Ontario, or life is any cheaper in Nova Scotia? You think life is any cheaper in Vancouver? Do you think life is any cheaper in Vancouver?
No, but you know.
So I don't understand. Like, where are you going with this?
Way.
Life is expensive. Life is expensive.
Yeah. And why is that? It's because
why do you think that is?
Implemented by Ottawa and imposed on the rest of us.
All right. Like what?
Well, for one, like equalization. You know, the people who work hard should get paid more and not have to subsidize things like, you know, Ontario and Quebec.
Okay. So, pardon me. Let's take it Atlantic Canada. Okay, they are recipients of equalization. Are you saying people in Nova Scotia don't work hard? Is that your accusation? They just don't work hard enough?
Well, why don't they get paid as much? You said it yourself.
Yeah, that's a fair question. But are you saying they don't? You're basically accusing other Canadians of being what, lazabouts? Is that what you think it is? Do you think people in Alberta are the only people who work hard, sir?
No, I didn't say that.
I was up before. I'm not in Alberta. I'm just on the other side of the Ontario-Quebec border. I was up before the sun was up today. I was probably up before you. Are you accusing me of not working hard enough? Am I not working hard enough for you?
I'm going to be nice to you, Rob. I think you do a great job at what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're making it sound as though Albertans are the only people who work hard.
Well, some of the other callers on the show are making it sound like Albertans are just narcissists who,
I would
don't understand how things are in the rest of the country.
That was your fellow Albertans who were making that accusation yesterday, that there's a superiority complex. That there's.
Okay.
I asked the question, sir. I asked the question.
From a couple other callers.
And it was callers from Alberta. Some callers from Alberta were saying that there's an arrogance to the people of Alberta that almost borders on a superiority complex. And the more I talk to you, the more I believe it, quite honestly.
Well, if we do separate here, like, what is your backup plan? What are you guys going to do? But where are you going to get all this?
Carry on, sir. We're going to keep calm and carry on. Because it'll be years before that ever comes to pass, and you and I both know it. That's our number one. I don't mean to be contentious. We can disagree without being disagreeable.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. It's the Friday free-for-all Talkback. Last hour of the week for us around here. Love to hear from you. We're wide open on topics today. Pick one. We'll roll with it. And let's go to Nova Scotia. Heidi is there. Hello, Heidi.
Hi. How are you today?
Hello. I'm hanging in there, Heidi. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I appreciate this opportunity. I heard about your call from Tony Loans in Nova Scotia. So,
okay.
I wanted to talk about my concern about vaccine injuries, and particularly COVID vaccine injuries, because I have some of the people that I know have suffered quite a bit. Now, I can't prove it was from the COVID vaccine, but they were previously healthy before, and then, very shortly afterwards, either had a heart attack or a stroke, or in one case, one woman that I knew, she got a very, very, very aggressive cancer and died soon afterwards, and that was after her second COVID shot. The reason I'm concerned is because a lot of people who have gone through this, they're not comfortable to speak out, like if they're still alive, because they get vilified. They get told that, they're vaccine hesitant or whatever, and which is kind of ironic.
Conspiracy theorists, you're wearing a tinfoil hat, those sorts of things, right? Yeah, sure. Well, I think there's been a recognition. That there are Canadians who have suffered adverse health problems because of the vaccine, or else the government would not have set up a vaccine injury program. I mean, that's just the way it is. The problem comes from what I understand is what it is like to actually access compensation through the vaccine injury program. That's where the problems are. Yeah, it's very laborious. It takes a long time.
Yeah, yes, I've heard that. And people don't want to get injured in the first place, so.
Of course not, yeah.
If it reduces their life quality or they can't work anymore or whatever, that's quite a problem. And so and some people have been injured and they're just sort of afraid to face the fact, and I think I just want to encourage people that if something comes up again, to do their research and, we have a right to informed consent, right? And that, we're not crazy for having some concerns when something is being pushed to the market so quickly. So that was...
Okay. I appreciate you speaking out about that. Yep, that's why it's the Friday free-for-all. Thanks for bringing that up, Heidi. 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. Just doing some quick internet research here. The federal government has paid out $21 million in financial supports to claimants outside of Quebec, according to data published from the Vaccine Impact Assistance Program webpage. Medical Review Board has approved 252 claims for financial payout. The program has received 3,500 claims so far, 450 determined to be completely inadmissible, 1,400 claims fully assessed by the Medical Review Board. There is another program in Quebec, a separate program, 664 claims, and the government of Quebec has compensated $14.6 million. Just a snapshot on that. Let's go to Calgary. Bobby is in Calgary. Hello, Bobby.
Hi.
Hi, Bobby. What's on your mind, Bobby?
So, Danny Dollars.
Danny Dollars, yeah.
I think there's a misrepresentation here. As I understand it, what this is each person's getting $100 in lieu of a provincial fuel tax rebate.
Okay.
So, whereas normally you'd get 13 cents per litre off, the government think that, well, that's all well and good, but it's never passed on to the actual public. Half of it's taken away by the retailers or whoever in the chain. So this way, the whole 13 cents gets passed on to the public. And it equates to about 750 litres of fuel.
750 liters of fuel. Just that part of the tax on the fuel. That part of the tax on the fuel, you mean?
The 13 cent provincial sales tax.
The 13 cents, yeah, okay, yeah.
So it's not free money. It's not money because we're flush. Alberta's flush with it. Every other province is virtually doing fuel tax relief, and the feds
fuel tax relief. Yes, you're right. They've suspended the federal excise tax till Labor Day. Right?
Absolutely. And this is Alberta's way of doing it, but making sure the full 13 cents gets back to the people and not gets nibbled at and eaten up by corporate.
Gotcha. So do you think it's a good program?
Yeah.
$340 million. You do? Okay.
I mean, it's the equivalent of taking your 13 cents off, but you probably won't get 13 cents off anyway. So 750 litres over 3 months. Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to ask my good friend Kris Sims is coming on in about 5 minutes here. She's the Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and is never shy in giving her most honest opinions on what she thinks of fiscal policy from the Alberta government. So we'll ask her about it, and she can weigh in on it as well. And I thank you for doing so, Bobby, but we have to stop here. Just getting started with hour number 2, though. Friday Free for All Talkback. Love to hear from you on Danny Dollars or anything else for that matter. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's go to Bob in Calgary. First time caller on Talkback on the Friday Free for All. Hello, Bob. Bob, are you with me, Bob? No? Bob's not there. Bob's not here, man. Airdrie. Kathy's in Airdrie. Hello, Kathy.
Hi, Rob. How you doing today?
Hanging in there, Kathy. How about you?
Yes.
What's on your mind?
Good. What's on my mind is that I want Canadians to know that Albertans are proud Canadians. I just, spent 2.5 weeks in Newfoundland, and people out there are saying, asking, what's going on out there? And I think there's so much rhetoric that, nobody knows what's going on out here. There's a lot of us that want to be Canadian, and I just want Canadians to know that.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I would say that, and I hear it all the time from people say, I don't believe the polls. I don't believe the polls, until one comes out in their favor, of course, and then they believe the polls.
Right.
But the polls aren't looking good right now for the independence movement, especially in the big
They're not
cities.
looking good.
You
No.
know? Especially in your city.
We are proud. We're out flying our Canadian flags. I'm sad that they're using the Alberta flag, to represent separatism, just like the trucker convoy used the Canadian flag. I didn't like that either, because then you felt like if you were flying your flags, you were supporting them when you weren't.
Okay. Appreciate the call today, Kathy in Airdrie. Great to hear from you today. All the best to you. Kris Sims, I promised my old friend Kris Sims would be here, everyone, the Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Well, great to hear from you again. You're in Lethbridge?
Yes, I am. I'm actually heading up to Sundre. As soon as we're finished talking, I've got my rodeo gear on.
Oh, okay. I've seen you in a cowboy hat before. It's very fetching.
You sure have. I used to be a barrel racer. Yeah.
So what do you think, Kris, of the Danny Dollars, the Premier's decision here?
Okay. I'm going to try to be nice off the top. I see what she's trying to do. And anytime taxpayers get some of their own money back is a good thing. So $100 is $100. But this isn't what they said they were going to do, Rob. Like, their own policy said that after a quarter of a price of a barrel of oil being more than $90 US per barrel, which it has been, they would fully reduce the fuel tax. What that means in normal people talk is 13 cents off per liter of gasoline and diesel. If you're filling up a minivan, it'll save you around 10-ish bucks. Filling up a regular pickup truck, save you around 15-ish bucks. Big rig truck driver, you're delivering everything we eat and use using diesel. They're saving more than $100. So for them to turn around and say, actually, no, instead, you have to go to a government website and then apply through a portal and, square root of the hypotenuse, you're going to get back $100. This isn't what they said they were going to do. We think they should have just stuck to their guns, their own policy, and given everybody a huge break, because when you reduce the cost of fuel, you reduce the cost of living for everyone. They should have just stuck to it, Rob.
So the huge break being something like they've done in other provinces, a suspension of certain fuel taxes or a reduction or what?
Yeah. So in Ontario, Premier Doug Ford has cut it in half before. Newfoundland and Labrador, they had a long-standing policy of cutting the fuel tax. Even in Manitoba, they did it. And in fact, Premier Daniel Smith has done this before. Like, Alberta has a policy that if the price of a barrel of oil goes sky high, we get our fuel tax taken off. Like, this used to be standard operating procedure based from this own UCP government. This is their policy. And for them to come out and say, actually, no, it's really weird. Like, I'll put it this way. Even Prime Minister Mark Carney in Ottawa didn't goof around with a rebate. He just took off the federal excise tax. 10 cents, gone.
That's right.
Yeah.
Until Labor Day.
Right.
Yeah. Right. What do you know, Kris, about the elevated oil price? What has it done to the Treasury in Alberta?
Well, a lot. It's
how
going
good
to
has it been, would you say?
It'll be in the billions with a B. So at the end of February, they delivered their budget, their provincial budget, and it was terrible. 9.4.
There was supposed to be a $10 billion deficit, right?
Correct. Just shy of $10 billion deficit. They were going to crank the provincial debt over $100 billion for the first time ever. It was bad, Rob, and they hadn't gone and found savings. Yeah,
I remember talking to you at the time. You weren't impressed.
Yeah, I was not. And then something kind of happened over in the Middle East, and then of course, with the tension going on there, that made the price of a barrel of oil spike. It was basically a week later, like right after the budget. Very beginning of March, boom, up goes the oil price. And so it's kind of like they dug a hole in their backyard and it was a big pit. And then all of a sudden the revenue price goes up and they just started whistling past the gas stations and allowed it to fill that hole back in. So we'll know at the end of this quarter during the fiscal update. So end of this June, beginning of July, we'll know what their books are looking like. I'm guessing.
Oh, really? So in about 2 weeks from now?
Yep.
A week, 2 weeks from now? Oh, really?
Yep, because they're going to have to do their quarterly fiscal update. We don't have to wait till next February. They do a quarterly fiscal update regularly, and they'll do their year end from last year fiscal. Sorry, I'm nerding out. But we'll have a much better look at the books in like 2 weeks. So this is, again, I sat there, Rob, and I did the math. And I'm like, okay, say you've got a minivan and a pickup truck, the way lots of suburban families do, and I'm here in Lethbridge too. Say you drive quite a bit, like a lot of her voters do in suburban and rural Alberta. And you fill up once a week, not twice a week, just once a week. By the end of September, you're saving like $370 if they had cut this fuel tax. But instead it's $100 each and you have to apply for it and it's means tested. And this is what I don't get, Rob, and you might be able to explain this to me. They made a point of saying, oh, well, even Zoe in downtown Edmonton who rides her bicycle and never drives is going to get this fuel tax rebate. Politically, I just don't get that part, I guess.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Great to hear from you.
Likewise.
Enjoy the rodeo.
Thank
Speak
you.
soon.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. That's Kris Sims, Alberta Director, Canadian Taxpayers Federation, on one of the big stories this week, the Danny Dollars. Lots of time to take your call. This is Talkback. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday free-for-all to Kitchener. We go. First-time caller. Ron is on the line. Hello, Ron.
Hello. How you doing?
Hanging in there, Ron. How about you?
Hi, good, thanks. I was driving home from the grocery store, and I just wanted to rebut that caller you had a few minutes ago from Alberta that thinks that the rest of Canadians don't work hard. And it's that kind of thinking that drives me crazy that's prevalent in the world today. And he says, he works hard, he deserves his money. Why should, he pay for the rest of Canada? I mean, I could use the same logic on him. I mean, every year when there's forest fires and Fort McMurray burns down and Banff burns down and sorry, I'm just losing it a little bit, but it's
it was Jasper, actually. The bad fire was in Jasper, right? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. But it's like, okay, who bails them out when that happens and helps rebuild? The Canadian government, the rest of us. So I could use the same logic and say, why should I use my tax dollars? Because the government of Alberta is too dumb to do anything about climate change, and the forest fires get worse every year. It's all about me. What happened about 20 years ago when the oil prices were low? And people in Alberta in the oil industry were losing their jobs. Who bailed them out then? So they're in a boom bust economy. And sorry, it ruffled my feathers a bit when I was listening to that guy, and I just had to call in and rebut. We do it because we're Canadians, and we help each other out in tough times, and the haves help out the have-nots. And sometimes you might not always be the have province, right? So what happens when the when people around the world switch to cleaner forms of energy in about 20 or 30 years, and the price of oil drops? Now they're going to be crying to the federal government, "Oh, please come bail us out." So it's like we help each other out because we're Canadians. That's why. That's my answer to that guy. So
okay, you've expressed it very well, sir. A very good rebuttal to our caller. I think it was it Bruce? I think it was Bruce in Calgary. Yeah. Got under some people's skin there, Bruce, with that call, but that's okay. I'm here to bring everyone together. Consider me your force for national unity for the next 30 minutes here on Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. The latest breaking news is coming up next. Lots of news to get you right up to date on. We will do that and then be right back with more of your calls, and you can get us into the weekend. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are in the home stretch here of the Friday free-for-all Talkback. Wide open on topics. Pick one. We'll roll with it. Let's go to Marianne up next in Calgary. Hello, Marianne.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very good, Marianne. How are you?
Good, thanks. You had talked earlier this week about education, and you specifically referenced the teacher strike in Alberta. And for what it's worth, I supported the teachers in this strike. I have several friends who are teachers, and I understand that they do not have enough support for the diversity in their classroom. And people can say, well, we never used to have to do that. But when I went to school in the 80s, there were no kids in my class who didn't already speak English. There were no kids there with profound disabilities or even an autism diagnosis. And once you know better, you're obligated to do better. So I think we have to put those supports in places in the classrooms. However, the one thing that I found out this week, I was volunteering at my son's high school, which is the largest high school in Calgary, at the Teacher Appreciation Luncheon. And I was appalled to hear the teachers saying that the government is deducting a per diem from their summer checks for the days they were on strike. Now, not only did they only get strike pay, now the government is deducting a per diem off their summer checks, which are smaller anyways, and that hadn't been in the news at all. I didn't know anything about that, and neither did any of the parent volunteers that were there. So I
didn't know that either.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either.
They're deducting a per diem for the strike days off their summer checks.
Wow.
I think that's kind of low, frankly.
I'm going to ask our newsroom at 660 News in Calgary to make a call and follow up on that and find out whether that's accurate or not.
Because that's what the teachers are talking about.
Because I haven't seen that in the news. I haven't seen that anywhere in the news, that they're kind of clawing stuff back from the teachers.
Yeah, and I have no reason to disbelieve them. If they say they're getting that deducted off their checks, they probably are.
Very interesting. As I recall, during that strike, I remember speaking with a striker who was on the picket line at the time. I don't even think they were getting strike pay. As I recall.
They may not have. I also have family in Saskatchewan who are teachers, and when they were on strike, they were getting strike pay, and I can't remember if the Alberta ones got it or not.
Right. Okay. Very interesting. Thank you for pointing that out. That's a juicy little news nugget that you got there, Marianne. That's a good one. Thank you. Let's go to Zach. He's also in Calgary. Hello, Zach.
Hey, Rob. Hope you're well.
I am well. It could stop raining, however. Thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, with all due respect, I think you and other Canadians are kind of strawmanning Albertans a bit when you accuse them of claiming Canadians don't work hard. Just like as an example, many Maritimers, they say a core part of their identity is hospitality, and you would agree with that. So if I, as an Albertan, said, well, what, you think other Canadians don't care about their neighbors and hospitality? that would be a little fallacious, I think, right?
Okay. But you did hear what he said. You did hear what he said.
Yeah, there's some people, like I said last time, there's a kernel of truth to all stereotypes, and there is some people that are disrespectful about it. I agree. But I don't know. And then the other caller, he was talking about bailing out our oil industry.
I challenged him and I said, don't you think that other people in other parts of the country don't work hard? And he said, well, why don't you make as much money? Well, what kind of comeback is that? Maybe in other provinces would be wealthier if they were sitting on an ocean of oil. Some other provinces are not.
No, that's fair. And
now other provinces as well, to the caller's point, other provinces have not made the most of the abundant natural resources that they have. And I think what's happened recently in the last year and a half has served as sort of a wake-up call, certainly in the province of Nova Scotia, where they now have a progressive conservative government and have had for a number of years. And Premier Houston is trying to do his best to develop the natural resources of that province. And he has said in news conferences is part of the reason he wants to do that is because he doesn't want his province to be reliant on equalization. He wants his province to be more self-reliant, which I think to a lot of people in Alberta would be greeted with a hallelujah.
Absolutely. And I think that's what most Albertans generally, at least the ones I speak to and me, that's what we mean when we say that we're industrious and we're working hard. We have the resources and we want to bring them out and put them to market. If another province has the resources and they decide they don't want to do anything with them, then, we just raise our hands and go, well, what are we supposed to do? And that was one of the things that came in my head. You had another caller talking about bailing out our oil industry. Oh, you mean when the federal government artificially suppressed Canadian domestic oil prices and levied heavy federal taxes on our natural resources? Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's a completely different world sometimes. But I wanted to talk about Quebec identity and nationalism, but unfortunately, I probably won't have time to do that.
What about it? What about it? You have about a minute here. What's your thinking on that?
Well, you mentioned a point about the Quebec referendums being about preserving culture and history, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I really respect that. But sometimes, I don't know, just from my perspective, and you live there, so maybe you'd be able to explain it to me.
I can try my best.
But there almost seems to be a cognitive dissonance in Quebec that I can't wrap my head around. Like when I study Quebec's history and culture, I read about the French-speaking missionaries, explorers, settlers, what their intentions and missions were. The rivers and towns and mountains are all named after certain cultural reference points like saints and they even remained loyalists after the French Revolution. That's, when I'm thinking about Quebec history. So when I look at the modern Quebec identity, this is what I see. And I'm not trying to offend people. I promise you, it's not my intention. And I know it's simplistic. I just don't have a ton of time. But when I look at modern Quebec identity, I see a culture that was steeped in French Catholic identity.
Yes.
That was politically dismantled in the 1960s, somewhat inorganically. And that latent culture remains, but they can't articulate it anymore. So the entire identity is centered around the French language and secularism. I don't know, when you say you want to preserve
you have to have, I think, and again, we're running a little tight on time here. You have to have, I think, a better appreciation of what was at work during the Quiet Revolution and the profound control that the Roman Catholic Church had over almost every aspect of Quebec society. And they have shed that. They do not look upon that time as good times, and it is part of the Quebec identity, deeply rooted since the late 50s and 60s, the Quiet Revolution. Thank you, Zach. Always interesting to take your call. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Okay, I see some names that I don't recognize on this screen here of callers. Why don't we go out to, because we rarely get calls from Langley, British Columbia. Let's go to Langley, British Columbia and speak with Frank. Hello, Frank.
Hi, Rob.
How are you, Frank?
Good. Sitting in the sunshine, enjoying a nice bike ride. Great to talk to you.
Sounds good. Send it this way, please. What's on your mind?
You had a great call-in topic yesterday on Alberta and its culture. I tried to call. It was way too popular a topic. Couldn't get through. So I wanted to share a couple of thoughts.
By all means.
Out in BC, a lot of our culture, political background comes from Alberta, especially since the early 1950s when we elected a social credit government here after Alberta's very successful social credit government. And so a lot of British Columbians have some similar backgrounds and perspectives. Many do not, especially those who live in downtown Vancouver. At any rate, I think all Canadians maybe aren't aware, somebody mentioned it on your thing yesterday, that Alberta and Saskatchewan had no control of their resources until 1930, 25 years after they became provinces. And that is a deeply rooted thing which still is present in Alberta. And it has shaped a lot of the anti-Ottawa sentiment, shaped the culture, it shaped their economy. I've often thought, what would have happened if they had discovered oil in great amounts before 1930? Would Ottawa have even given up its control of resources? And my guess is they would not have. And I think a lot of that has shaped the Alberta culture and political thinking. And the last 10 years under Justin Trudeau, where every effort was made to shut down the oil industry as much as possible or throw things in its way, just made Albertans more and more angry. And I think
that was it brought it to the boiling point. Certainly, I would say. I would agree with you there.
And one of your earlier callers today mentioned, the nationalization of the energy industry in the early 1980s under Pierre Trudeau. And that also and that's when Alberta actually elected a separatist MLA to the legislature in a by-election when all that stuff was happening. Western Canada concept guy. And so I think that, to me, has a lot to do with it. Albertans are hardworking. People all across Canada are hardworking. Albertans are entrepreneurial. There's entrepreneurs all across Canada. I don't think you can compare that kind of stuff from one province to another. And I think Central Canada, and particularly the elite, are deeply resented in much of Western Canada. They certainly are in many parts of BC. And they are in Alberta, they are in Saskatchewan, and I think Central Canada doesn't really understand that. And I'm talking about the elite. I'm not talking about the average working person in Kitchener or London or Windsor. Or
I would agree with you. I mean, there is an elite that really thinks Canada, this would be my own opinion, Canada ends in the east at Quebec City and it ends in the west, maybe just on the western side of the GTA. They give no thought to anything else.
Exactly. And I think that's the root of a lot of Alberta's culture is resentment of that type of attitude. So that's my perspective.
Thank you for sharing it, Frank. Let's take Emerson's call up next on Talkback. Hello, Emerson.
Hi, good afternoon, Rob. I just wanted to talk just briefly. Frank Stronach, the founder of Magna Automotive Parts there in Ontario.
Yeah.
Being found guilty, 2 out of 12 charges, a very stern Justice Malloy, who's very good, as she acquitted him of the 10 most serious. But what I'm getting at is these charges go back almost 30, 40 years. So at the end of the day, even if his lawyer was to launch an appeal, that could take 3-4 years to go through the system. He's already on borrowed time as it is at 93 years old. I don't see where this is all going. I think at the end of the day, what this justice is going to do for sentencing is issue of what's called a conditional sentence. He can serve his time at home and in the community, which I think would be appropriate given the amount of time that's gone by. But what I'm getting at is there should be some sort of jurisdiction that you can say, look, after 10 years, 15 years, people all of a sudden come out dialing for dollars because they know that he's a target and that something's going to stick. And like the one victim said today on TV, my civil claim looks really good now, she said, with a big smile on her face. At the end of the day, the court shouldn't be a collection agency for people who are trying to extort money out of other people.
I'm not sure. I don't know if that was the motive here. I mean, let's face it. There was a trial. He had his day in court. The judge heard the evidence. It was a judge-only trial and has rendered a verdict on these charges. A case that nearly collapsed entirely for the Crown. It's not the end for Frank Stronach. There's going to be another trial, which will be by jury on separate charges. Thank you, Emerson, for your call. Be right back with a few more minutes to take a few more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
All right, Gord is up next here in the final few minutes of the Friday Free-for-All. Hi, Gord.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, good, Gord. What's up? What do you want to talk about?
Well, a couple things. I have a buddy of mine that's a math teacher, and what that lady said a few calls ago, he says he actually told me about it. But
he told you about this per diem clawback kind of thing?
Yeah. He goes, you get it all year, blah, blah, blah. But he says a lot of teachers, some take pay for the year, some people take pay for just when they work, so it's more pay, obviously. And he says if you take it for the year, if you're not working during part of the year, of course, they're going to take that back. He goes, I don't like it, but he says it's math. It's not emotion. It's just math. So he goes, they're just doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, having a hard time hearing you, Gord. You've got to speak right into the phone. It sounds like you're on a speaker. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's better, yeah.
So he says, it's just math. It's not an emotion. He says they're right in taking it back. He says he doesn't like it either, but that's just the way it works. But anyway, the $100 we're getting in Alberta, I think it's hilarious. I'll take it. But governments have a habit of giving money back when they don't have money. Everybody's broke, but somehow we find this money for FIFA. And you're going, $2 billion. So you're going to pay $10 million a month in interest on that $2 billion that we don't have, but it magically appeared. And you're just going, we're so dumb, Rob, as taxpayers. We actually go, this is great. And we won yesterday. Did you see we won? And I'm going, okay, name one player or two or maybe three. Nobody can, of course. But we're going to service debt to $10 million a month.
Yeah, I understand that, but it was still exciting. Come on, that was a good game. That was a good game.
Rob. I don't care. I care about servicing.
I know you don't care, but I mean, I know. Well, that one game was like an $82 million game, but $82 million. Okay, that was an $82 million game.
Yeah, where did it go? That's the money. Where did the money go? That was at the gate or the souvenirs. It went to the hoteliers, and that's good. That's all good stuff. But if you're borrowing $2 billion to make $82 million, not the best economist. Sorry.
Okay. When I mean it was an $82 million game, I mean that we have, what do we have? 13 games. It's going to cost it's more than $1 billion in government money to put these games on. All right. Thank you.
Billion.
Thank you. Gotta go. Yeah, gotta go, Gord. A minute or less, Garrett. That's all I can give you. I'm sorry. If you want to say something really quick, go ahead, Garrett. You'll get the last word of the week.
No problem. I'm flattered that I'm the last one, and Alberta is kind of the center of attention right now. But I just wanted to say the Alberta separatism thing, has anyone actually given a real thought as to the actual cost of separation beyond what happens after we separate? We treat these equalization payments as something that we would just get to keep, and it's surplus cash and everything is status quo post-separation. Well, guess what? We have healthcare to pay for, we have the military to pay for, we have border control to pay for, we have everything that the federal government
They're studying
provide
that right
back to
now.
the province.
Jacques Parizeau, the separatist in Quebec, the late leader of the PQ, always used to say to Quebec separatists, we will have our own nation. You will pay more for it, but it'll be worth it because we'll have our own nation. I wonder if, Mitch Sylvester and Jeffrey Rath can make the same case to the people of Alberta. Are you willing to pay more?